Actually, I wanted to start with you first. I think one of the most beautiful aspects of filmmaking is its ability to shine light on people who've had such a significant impact on history, like Mildred, who we may not otherwise know. After reading the book that Jim Ross gave you, you wanted to adapt her story for the screen. What was it about her story that resonated with you? And what unique freedoms does this medium offer in providing that story to life?
Yeah, I think on a human level, it was just so unique. Her being a single mother, her kind of risking everything, even at a time when it was illegal to chase her dreams. And I'm a big pro wrestling fan, and I had never heard of her story. So to me, that made it that much more kind of magnified and outrageous that if I don't know it, I definitely know, casual fans don't know. And it's just such a incredible human story, even outside of all of the pro wrestling drama of just, an unorthodox family trying to, chase their dreams and do something special with their lives while we're on this short trip on Earth. So it just really inspired me deeply after reading the book. And then, of course, all of the I don't want to give away any spoilers, but very peculiar, unusual, kind of family drama. I always try and find when reading, like, have we already seen this scene before? And there's a few scenes with the two families that I had never seen before in a movie or read in a book. So I was just like, wow, this is really, really unique.
Emily, you did such an extensive training process in your preparation to play this incredible woman. Can you share a little bit about how you prepared to step into her shoes and how that physicality helped you tap into the core of who this woman is and the way that she carries herself and moves in the world?
Yeah, I mean, when the script first came to me with Ash, um, one of the questions was had I wrestled before, and I absolutely not. I had been in sort of a boxing ring before and that kind of thing, but I've always been quite physical, so I felt like I had the potential. Um, so after we had jumped on that call, I called a friend of mine who's the only wrestler I knew. I don't know much about wrestling at the time. I could say I probably have an extensive amount of knowledge now, nowhere near as Ash, but I have an extensive amount of knowledge. And asked him to just show me the ropes because I was about to sign on to play Mildred and I wanted to kind of know what I was in for. Um, After sort of kind of bouncing around on the mat for a bit, I was like, okay, when I get to Louisville, this is going to be full on. And until then, it was training with my trainer, Tom Taylor, T3 Athletics, as well as Dr. Diego Bottizelli for nutrition. So putting on a lot of muscle, which, is mostly weights. No cardio was recommended at all. I'm sort of a runner and a boxer and I like to do yoga and that kind of thing. So it was a big change for me in that area, especially at the time. I think I had sort of gotten into a more softer way of life in a sense, more running and softness. And so this was putting a couple strengths together. When I was in rehearsal process with my coach, Andrew McRoy and Matthew Anderson, there was a time early on when I was trying to find her spine, and it was Andrew McRoy who said to me, well, when you keep putting on the muscle, the spine is going to evolve with this character. And it was true. The muscle wasn't just for the physicality of the role and what she looked like. It was a way she carried herself and the way her spine represents strength and power. Is like I can feel it even when I feel it here in her. There's almost a pulling down of the lats that I no longer have, um, and strength in the chest that I didn't have. So there is an embodiment aspect with the training process as well. And that continued through our filming because that went into training with OVW and wrestling rehearsals with our amazing stunt team with Heath, Jet, and Kelly. We were in the ring as much as possible
Yeah, your
all the time.
perform. Yeah,
Yeah.
your performance in this is transformative. And Ash, the way that you were able to depict on screen the adversity that these women and these characters face is so gut punching that you immediately feel it as an audience member. As a writer director, how did you create that environment on set where your ensemble could tap into the vulnerability needed to tell this really important story?
Well, because it was such a grueling schedule and it was really hot in Louisville, they could take some inspiration just from the natural intensity of pulling off this story with this scope on a small independent budget. It was really tough, mainly because of the schedule. we had other issues, hurricane or not, like a bad storm at the carnival. There was just a lot of challenges that came our way. But as far as the environment, I mean, the girls, they really built their own camaraderie as artists that I think, from what I could tell, it came across very genuine. Like I think they all actually became, because none of them, other than Tony and Kaylee, like none of them were wrestlers. So they were all kind of discovering this world together. So it felt on set that they were, like all on this special, like, sleepaway summer camp where they're studying this, like, never before touched underworld. And they just really had a natural chemistry as friends. And then I think that translated to the screen because it just feels like they're really all in it together, and they're genuinely like, bringing to life the characters they're playing, and it didn't feel forced at all on or off the screen. So um, I I think because it was, no one lived there. They were no none of the main cast of the wrestlers lived there, so they were all away from home, learning something new. It was an underdog production again, because normally stories this kind of ambitious are big studio pictures. So all that stuff I think has kind of fed into the dynamic that they all shared together, and then also the training too, because it was, I mean, there was a lot of, as you can see just from the cut you've seen, like there's a lot of action in the ring, and the girls, like they studied it, and there's no faking those moves and those bumps, and so they were really in it together, I think, which really helped just the chemistry with all of them.
It's so believable on screen. And Emily, there's such a beautiful moment at the start of the film when Mildred attends a wrestling match, and you see and feel that spark that ignites within her. And from that moment, I was hooked on this story. For you as a storyteller, what's been that equivalent on set when you knew this was your path and purpose?
Yeah, there's some sort of through line in there that Mildred and I do share this sort of reaching for this dream, this calling in a sense. Um, for me, I'm not sure when it started. I loved watching TV and movies growing up, and I've always loved fiction, and I've kind of always loved getting able to say words that I might not necessarily say, and not only that, it's not in the dictating them, it's the feeling of what that means behind it for that person. There's like an alchemical thing that I don't get to do unless there's 200 other people with me helping me do it, and it's similar to Mildred, like she needs a scene partner, she needs a ring, she needs a coach, she needs the platform to be able to do it. So she's like, hey, this is my dream. I'm gonna need a village. And it's that sort of drive that people come around her for. She has those women as friends and as teammates and as confidants, and she creates a community because of her dream. It's so
Mhm.
interesting how much she got out of that life. She has her son with her the whole time, and she not only wants to be a wrestler, she wants to be a mother and a leader, and she wants to break down barriers in that world, and she has high level women around her who also want to do that. And that's because of something she's attracted.
When Mildred was making her mark on the world, it was during a time where societal norms didn't believe women could be tough and feminine at the same time. And Emily, you did such a brilliant job portraying Mildred as somebody who defied those expectations. For each of you, can you talk about how you ensure that that contrast was reflected not only in the script, but also in the performances, because you feel that as an audience member throughout?
Yeah, that's me, that's Ash, that's Mildred herself. The script was an honest script. There wasn't a flowery aspect to potentially covering up who this woman was. This was a very, you were able to see who she was and who we were representing on the page. And that makes it clear when clarity starts like that. As an actor, you feel safer to be able to explore what that is. You don't have to decode things. There's also such an extensive amount of research that we got to do with her and for her. You know, Jefflene's book is incredible. It's well written. It's a joy to read. You know, there's a ton on the internet as well, and I think those pictures of her on the internet I've talked about a few times, like they're really important to show who this woman was, and I think the strength and femininity in that is shown in who she was back then, and who she was always going to be. I don't think there was a question, you know, in an alternate reality, if she stayed in that diner, I think she still would have always been feminine and strong and a single mother. I don't think that's something she grew into. I think that's who she is, you know.
Back then it was so just not, it was another thing that drew me to the story. In the current era of society, fit women are really being celebrated, which is amazing and beautiful. But back then it was so just not, it wasn't accepted. Like if women had real physique, it was considered too masculine. It wasn't embraced. It wasn't considered beautiful and attractive. And that it was just, I think the girls all really committed, especially Emily as the lead, to getting their bodies in the right shape to reflect that. And I think it comes across on the screen. But that was just another thing, just as a reader, when I first
Mhm.
started looking into her story, that I just thought was so timely too, because it's really just now that that's changing. And Mildred was kind of the first person to really bring that into pop culture,
Mm.
which I just think is, again, it's a story that people should know.
Mhm.
Yeah, she's a trailblazer. And something that I loved about this film is how you're immediately transported back in time through the set design and the costume. That attention is both grand and so subtle and detailed. It really creates that immersive experience, and that cinematic landscape feels like a character in itself. Can you talk a little bit about the process of building that world with your creative team?
Yeah, so much of that is literally the crew. Molly Coffey was a great production designer. Sophia with the costumes. One thing we wanted to do, well, I felt, because pro wrestling really is a colorful world, we purposely didn't want to, we didn't want the world, even as down to like the background actors and the colors they were wearing, we didn't want everything to feel what you traditionally see in periods, where it's all just kind of grays and browns and a very lack of just color on the screen. So I think everywhere we go with Mildred, unless it's very intentional, like in the divorce court and stuff, we wanted to see the kind of color coming to life, because the pro wrestling world did kind of bring that excitement. It really is the circus and the theater, and theater and circus are colorful worlds. So we wanted to have a balance of still being true to the period the best we could with our budget, but also showing that, you know, pro wrestling wasn't like everything else back then in society. And that was part of the magic and the allure of
Mm.
fans and performers wanting to be in it. So and that was another reason we went to Louisville as well, because there was a lot of period friendly hotels and venues. Palace Theater is one of them that just had such life and such an amazing kind of spectrum of color throughout the buildings, that was really a big part of why we were able to pull it off as an indie film, because the locations that we had in Louisville that were willing to let us film there. But yeah, I mean, all the credit and respect to the crew. They really brought it to life, and I'm very grateful that we were able to assemble the team that we could.
I think magic is the perfect way to describe this film. And like, I got the final question for you, but like any profession, there are highs and lows, and Mildred's story really highlights the importance of getting back into the ring. Now that you've wrapped on this project, what impact has portraying her had on you and how you navigate your own career moving forward?
Yeah, she taught me a lot about um, sort of propelled momentum in the self, and not getting wrapped into any type of self-doubt. You know, she has a strength to keep going, and I think innately we both have that. But this constant cheering yourself on and believing in yourself is something that's so strong in her, and something I'll take with me for the rest of my life. Maybe not, you know, maybe in my weakest moments is when I could have her, I'll need her most, but she'll always be there. And I'm grateful for that.